Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India-Angola pledged to deepen bilateral cooperation, agree on cooperation in marine resources, President Murmu to address Parliament and also interact with the Indian community. US senators in a rare Sunday session reach a deal to end the longest ever government shutdown.
And it looks like we're getting close to the shutdown ending.
Massive flight cancellation and delay reported across the US as air traffic control staffing shortages surge due to shutdown. Transportation Secretary warns things only going to get worse until the government reopened. Amazon city of Belém hosts leaders as all-important COP30 to begin today. Brazil's choice of venue underlines importance of world forests as rising global temperatures post the stiff challenge. Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav to represent India. BBC Director General Tim Davie and CEO Deborah Turness resigned following a row over misleading edit of Trump's January 6 speech. Trump welcomes the departure, calls the action a terrible thing for democracy. In sports, shooter Anish Bhanwala creates history, becomes the first Indian ever to win a medal in the men's 25 meters rapid fire event at World Championships with a silver in the final at Cairo. The US Senate on Sunday appeared poised to move forward with a measure aimed at reopening the federal government and ending a 40-day shutdown that has sidelined federal workers, delayed food aid and snarled air traffic. Senators expect to vote on advancing a House-passed bill that will be amended to combine the short-term funding measure, which would fund the government through January 2026, with a package of 3 full-year appropriations bills. At least 8 Democrats, enough for the measure to clear the Republican-controlled Senate, are expected to support the measure. The amended package would still have to be passed by the House of Representatives and sent to President Donald Trump for his signature. Under a deal struck with a group of Democrats, Republicans would agree to vote in December on extending subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. President Trump said that the government shutdown may be nearing a resolution. He insisted that he would not approve any substantial money for what he described as prisoners or illegals.
Well, it looks like we're getting very close on the shutdown. We'll never agree to give any substantial money or any money to really prisoners, illegals that come into our country. And I think the Democrats understand that. And it looks like we're getting close to the shutdown ending. You'll know very soon. Thank you very much.
In the US, flight operations are expected to slow down sharply before Thanksgiving because the federal shutdown continues and there is a shortage of air traffic controllers. Transportation Secretary John Duffy has warned that flights may drop to a trickle as Thanksgiving gets closer. Now, this is the third day that major airlines are facing government-ordered cuts after thousands of delays and cancellations. The shutdown has now crossed 40 days and controllers have not been paid for the weeks. The FAA has instructed airlines to cut 4% of daily flights at 40 major US airports, which will rise to 6% on Tuesday and then reach 10% by November 14. Director General of the British Broadcasting Corporation BBC and its head of news have resigned on Sunday following criticism for editing a speech by US President Donald Trump. The Director General of Britain's BBC, Tim Davie, and the Chief Executive of News, Deborah Turness, have resigned following criticism over bias at the corporation, including in the way it edited a speech by Donald Trump on 6th of January 2021. Davie will stay on for the next few months while a replacement is found. The White House had recently denounced the broadcaster as a propaganda machine after the flagship Panorama program was found to have edited two parts of Trump's speech together, so he appeared to encourage the Capitol Hill riots. The BBC had been under mounting pressure after an internal report by a former standards advisor was leaked to the Daily Telegraph newspaper, which cited failings in its coverage of the Israel-Hamas conflict, trans issues, and a speech made by Trump. Trump welcomed the departures, posting a link to the Daily Telegraph story about the speech editing on his Truth social network, thanking the newspaper for exposing these corrupt journalists. Trump criticized the two as very dishonest people. Tim Davie, who has led the British Broadcasting Corporation since 2020, defended the organisation, saying its journalism was seen as the gold standard around the world. But he said mistakes had been made and he had to take ultimate responsibility. Deborah Turness, in an email to the staff, said that I want to be absolutely clear. Recent allegations that BBC News is institutionally biased are wrong. The United Nations 30th Conference of Parties, COP30, begins in Belém, Brazil on 10th of November. It marks a decade since the Paris Climate Pact came into force. A lot has changed since the landmark treaty was adopted, and at the same time, the needle has not moved much on several long-standing climate issues. Indigenous leaders from Andes arrived in Belém to attend the COP30 Climate Summit. Their main goal was demanding a greater say in how their territories are managed as climate change escalates and industries including mining, oil drilling and logging press deeper into the forest. A report last week by Earth Insight and the Global Alliance of Territorial Communities said that in the one-third of the Amazon rainforest occupied by indigenous or local communities, about 17% of those spaces now faced encroachment by oil and gas drilling, mining and logging concessions. In the run-up to COP30, more than 60 countries have submitted revised climate action plans. However, by all accounts, collective ambition will not be enough to keep global warming below the threshold set at Paris. The spiraling effects of climate change are already evident in the record-breaking heat waves of 2024, the toll taken by floods, typhoons and cyclones over the past 10 years, and the forest fires that have raged in different parts of the world in the last 3 years. In the Brazilian town of Rio Bonito do Iguaçu, rescue and recovery efforts continued as a powerful tornado devastated the town on Friday. The tornado destroyed over 90% of its buildings and killed 6 people. The main focus is assessing damage and providing financial aid to residents and businesses to restore normalcy. The disaster left more than 1,000 people homeless, with emergency shelters being set up in the nearby cities. Let's get to updates from West Asia now. The body of deceased Israeli hostage, said to be of Israeli army officer Hadar Goldin, arrived at Israel's Forensic Institute on Sunday. Goldin, an officer in the Israeli military, was killed by Hamas in an ambush in Rafah in the 2014 Israel-Hamas conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement saying that he knew Israel will bring Hadar Goldin and Oron Shaul after their bodies were taken hostage into Gaza in the 2014 Israel-Gaza conflict. Under October ceasefire deal, Hamas turned over all 20 living hostages held in Gaza since the group's attack on Israel in return for nearly 2,000 Palestinian convicts and wartime detainees held in Israel. The ceasefire agreement also included the return of the remains of 28 deceased hostages in exchange for the remains of 360 militants. So far, 23 hostage bodies have been returned in exchange for 300 bodies of the Palestinians, though not all have been identified, according to Gaza's health authorities.
So after 11 years, hopefully, really hopefully, there's not some propaganda, and we've actually got our friend, our teammate from the army who's come back to be buried in Israel. We're really excited. We've got conflicting feelings, but we hope to be for him to be brought to be buried in Israel as it should have been happened 11 years ago. And we're very excited, and we're waiting here for the final decision and final confirmation that it's actually Hadar Goldin.
Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is in United States for an official visit, during which Washington hopes to enlist Damascus in its coalition against ISIL or ISIS. Al-Shara, whose rebel forces ousted longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad late last year, is due to meet US President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday. Al-Shara's arrival comes in the backdrop of Damascus launching a large-scale security operation across the country targeting ISIL cells. It is the first such visit by a Syrian president since the country's independence in 1946. Al-Shara, who had met Trump for the first time in Riyadh in May, was removed from a US terrorist sanctions list on Friday. US President Donald Trump has nominated John Cole as the United States Special Envoy to Belarus. Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social that Cole has successfully negotiated the release of 100 hostages and is going for an additional 50. Cole led the delegation which negotiated the release of 52 prisoners of various nationalities from Belarus on September 11, 2025. It was the biggest batch of prisoners pardoned by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who was seeking to repair relations with the US after years of isolation and sanctions. Bolivia's newly inaugurated president, Rodrigo Paz, he formally swore his cabinet on Sunday at the historic Palacio Cumedo, marking the beginning of the administration. He pledged to prioritize meritocracy and institutional reform. The ceremony featured the appointment of the slate of ministers, including Fernando Hugo Aramayo as the foreign minister. Aramayo declared the event a renewal of the pact between the state and its people and emphasized a commitment to modernizing institutions. Meanwhile, Paz Pereira also led a convoy of fuel tankers into El Alto on Sunday, marking the arrival of much-needed diesel and gasoline supplies to ease a months-long shortage. President Paz, with his ministers, led a convoy to restart fuel deliveries, declaring an end to state obstruction and promising to resolve Bolivia's fuel shortages through new international agreements and improved logistics. His administration faces a challenging political and economic landscape amid the worst economic crisis in 4 decades. And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the globe. Paris marked the 10th anniversary of the November 13th attacks with a run for freedom and an equality march. Thousands joined to honor the victims and show unity. Organizers also said the best response to terrorism is standing together and celebrating freedom. Dog lovers in Nairobi gathered for the colorful Porchella Dog Show, where pets strutted in fancy costumes. The event featured contests for the shaggiest dog and the best owner dog duo, celebrating the bond between humans and their furry friends. Toronto welcomed its first snowfall of the season on Sunday, blanketing the city's landmarks in white. Residents and tourists enjoyed the early winter charm, while Environment Canada warned of slick roads and transit delays with up to 10 centimeters of snow expected. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Global Peace Prayer Festival underway in Bhutan. Stay with us to know why is it special. 11th Indo-Sri Lanka exercise Mitra Shakti to begin from November 10th at Belagavi. The 5th edition of Ironman 70.3, the world's premier middle-distance triathlon, held in Goa at the iconic scenic coastal stretches and Goa's heritage-lined avenues.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar.
Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. India is expanding its partnership with Africa, with President Draupadi Murmu undertaking 5-day visit to Angola and Botswana, the first ever visit by an Indian head of state to these two nations. The president arrived in the capital Luanda on Sunday in the first leg of her historic visit. Today on day 2, President Murmu will visit the fortress of St. Michael. She is then scheduled to address the Parliament of Angola besides attending the Indian community reception later in the day. The President's visit to Angola is focused on strengthening cooperation in defence, agriculture, energy, pharmaceuticals and space technology. Following her engagements in Angola, President Murmu will visit Botswana from November 11th to 13th at the invitation of President Duma Gideon Boko. Earlier on day 1, President Murmu was accorded a ceremonial welcome and guard of honour. She also held one-on-one meeting and delegation-level talks with Angolan counterpart. Our correspondent reports from Luanda. Take a look.
President Draupadi Murmu was accorded a ceremonial welcome at the Presidential Palace in Luanda, a historic moment marking the start of her first state visit to Angola. She was received by Angolan President João Manuel Gonçalves Lorenz with a 21-gun salute and a guard of honor, followed by bilateral and delegation-level talks. Discussions between the two leaders focused on expanding cooperation across priority sectors, from agriculture and defense to pharmaceuticals, energy and the space technology, areas seen as crucial for growth in both countries.
भारत का अफ्रीका के साथ एक विशिष्ट और ऐतिहासिक संबंध है। हम इंडिया अफ्रीका फोरम समिट के ढांचे के अंतर्गत सभी अफ्रीकी देशों, विशेषकर अंगोला के साथ साझेदारी के प्रति प्रतिबद्ध हैं। हम आगामी IAFS समिट के आयोजन की प्रक्रिया में हैं और उसमें अंगोला की सहभागिता की आशा करते हैं।
The two sides also signed and exchanged agreements or MOUs to enhance collaboration in fisheries, aquaculture, marine resources and cooperation in consular matters, further deepening the institutional framework of the partnership. The visit also marked Angola's inclusion in two key India-led initiatives, the International Big Cat Alliance and the Global Biofuel Alliance, aimed at biodiversity conservation and clean energy transition.
और अंगोला की साझेदारी आपसी विश्वास, परस्पर सम्मान और हमारे लोगों के समृद्धि भविष्य की साझा दृष्टि पर आधारित है। हम द्विपक्षीय साझेदारी को बढ़ाने और क्षेत्रीय व वैश्विक मामले में विचारों के आदान प्रदान के लिए निकट सहयोग कर रहे हैं। हमने नए क्षेत्रों में व्यापार और निवेश संबंधों को और विविध बनाने पर सहमति व्यक्त की, जिसमें टेक्नोलॉजी, कृषि, स्वास्थ्य, रक्षा, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और पीपल टू पीपल टाइज शामिल है।
The Angolan president hosted a state banquet in honor of President Murmu, reflecting the warmth and growing friendship between the two nations. India and Angola also share close people-to-people ties, and New Delhi continues to champion Africa's voice on global platforms as part of the Global South.
Both the countries have showed their mutual interest in strengthening the bilateral relation between both India and Angola, and cooperation in multiple sectors including defense, aviation, pharma, agriculture is expected in the coming times. With camera person Shailendra Chauhan, this is Dibyendu Model from Luanda in Angola for DD India.
A special Buddhist festival is underway in Bhutan. It is called Global Peace Prayer Festival. It brings together followers of Buddhism from all over the world to pray for peace and harmony. Making this occasion special are the sacred Buddhist relics from India that are on public exposition in Thimphu. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in the Global Peace Prayer Festival during his upcoming visit to Bhutan.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Thimphu, India-Bhutan spiritual connection will also be in focus. We are at the Global Peace Prayer Festival here in Thimphu. It's a historic gathering of Buddhist leaders, peace advocates from around the world. Prime Minister would be participating in these festivities. Also making the occasion special are sacred Buddhist relics that have been brought from Delhi to Thimphu for a public exposition.
Atmosphere reverberating with Buddhist chants, prayer flags waving in the wind, and gathering of followers as far as the eye can see. In a world increasingly characterized by conflict, polarization, and discord, a transformative spiritual gathering is taking place in Thimphu. The Global Peace Prayer Festival brings together an unparalleled assembly of eminent lamas from all schools of Buddhism within Bhutan and beyond, uniting their voices for the healing of humanity. The Global Peace Prayer Festival is taking place from 4th to 19th November. It coincides with the 70th birth anniversary of the 4th King of Bhutan, Jigme Singye Wangchuk.
This festival means to be a world peace festival for us, and it is a Buddhist festival between India and Bhutan. And we are very excited to see Prime Minister Modi here in Bhutan.
This event is especially for the spreading of Buddhism all over the world and showing how our Buddhism is true. And we welcome Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, to Bhutan.
As a symbol of shared Buddhist heritage, sacred relics of Lord Buddha from India are on public exposition in Thimphu during the Global Peace Prayer Festival. Earlier, a high-level delegation led by Union Minister Viren Kumar carried the sacred relics to Bhutan. The sacred Piparawa relics of Lord Buddha are amongst the most venerated objects in Buddhism. In a post on X, PM Modi expressed heartfelt appreciation to the people and leadership of Bhutan for the reverent welcome accorded to the sacred relics of Lord Buddha from India. His Bhutanese counterpart, Shering Tobgay, thanked India for allowing the sacred relics to be brought to Thimphu. During the upcoming visit to Bhutan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the Global Peace Prayer Festival and offer prayers to the holy relics in Thimphu. Presence of sacred relics from India and Prime Minister's visit are expected to reinvigorate the spiritual and cultural connect between India and the Himalayan kingdom. With camera person Saurabh, Shubhendu Ghosh, DD India, Thimphu.
The 11th edition of the joint military exercise between India and Sri Lanka, Mitra Shakti 2025, begins today at the Foreign Training Node in Belagavi. The 14-day exercise aims to enhance joint operations in urban and semi-urban terrain, fostering defence cooperation, mutual trust and regional peace. This collaborative exercise highlights the shared commitment of both nations to regional peace and security, while also aiming to strengthen defence cooperation and further solidify the strategic partnership between India and Sri Lanka. The annual event alternates between the nations. Last year's edition in Sri Lanka involved Rajputana Rifles and Gajaba Regiment personnel sharing counter-terrorism tactics. On to sports updates. India's Anish Bhanwala delivered a career-defining performance at the ISSF World Championships in Cairo, clinching silver in the 25 meters rapid-fire pistol final. The 23-year-old from Haryana showed remarkable composure, surviving a tense shoot-off for bronze before outlasting Ukraine's Maxim Horodanets to secure second place with a score of 28. Overcoming the disappointment of missing out at the Paris 2024 Olympics, Bhanwala's resilience and precision marked his biggest international medal yet in a fiercely contested final. The 5th edition of Ironman 70.3 Goa was held on Sunday, with Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant flagging off the race from the iconic Miramar beach. The course challenged athletes with a 1.9 kilometer swim, 90 kilometers cycling race and a 21.1 kilometers run, weaving through scenic coastal stretches and Goa's heritage-lined avenues. From 1,300 triathletes from 31 countries plunged into the Arabian Sea, marking yet another milestone for the event, which welcomed athletes from 62 nations across its 5 editions. Uzbekistan's Konstantin Belazov storms to victory in the men's category, while UK's Ellie Garrett clinched the women's title. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the participants of Ironman 70.3, sharing pictures of the event and of the two BJP Young Party leaders, Annamalai and Tejasvi Surya, who completed the triathlon. In a social media post, he said, and I quote him, "Glad to see increased participation by our youth in events like Ironman 70.3, which was held in Goa. Such events contribute towards Fit India movement. Congratulations to everyone who took part. Delighted that two of our young party colleagues, Annamalai and Tejasvi Surya, are among those who have successfully completed the Ironman triathlon." Berlin's Forest Winter Light installation is lighting up the festive season with a mix of Christmas charm, industrial vibes and techno beats. Created by artists The show also offers skating under glowing lights and upside-down Christmas trees, inviting visitors on an emotional winter journey. Take a look. With that, we end this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.